We love you. So, as the investigators, talk to Chris, he tells them about his feelings, about he thought it was love that he's never felt before. And, he tells his wife and that he has fears that when he comes home tonight, that they'll be gone and he wouldn't be allowed in the door. So that's why he woke Shannon up that morning, because he had fears that she would be gone after he told her that they should separate. And that's if he ever told her, because I'm not for sure what he ever told her. Because every time, Shannon said to her friends or something's not right, he's never been like this before. And then he tells her, well, it'll work out. It'll work out. It'll work out. And that's mostly what she was saying. She never said, he keeps telling me I want separation and I'm leaving. We need to separate. She never says too much like that. She never keeps on like that. So Chris Watts is lying. He's lying about how many times he asked her for a separation and living in the basement. They weren't sleeping in the same bed. Not once did Shannon say he was sleeping in the basement. The couch maybe. But I didn't hear about living in the basement. Now, that could be because maybe Shannon didn't want to tell her friends that he's living in the basement because, they have this picture-perfect marriage where everything's, they're having some problems. But, you're not going to tell your friends absolutely everything, all the bad stuff. So maybe it could have been true. Don't know. He could have been sleeping in the basement a lot. But maybe she's not going to tell people that. I don't know if Chris told his mother he's sleeping in the basement. I don't know what he told his mother. But what he told NK was he was sleeping in the basement. That's all that matters right now. And she believed it. Because she's an idiot too. So, that's why he woke up his wife to talk to her. That's kind of what he says. That's what we all know. But for whatever reason, at one time, with the baby monitor, when he first said about the baby monitor, he went downstairs and got his lunch ready, for work and blah, blah, blah. And then he comes back up the stairs. But the problem with that story is there's no kind of movement of him ever doing that. So, and then the baby monitor was black and white. And apparently, I don't know if it gets videotaped or not, but it's capable of doing it, but was not on. Something like that. But anyway, so this is when he says, we see you're strangling one of the kids. And apparently the other one's already dead. You know what I mean? She's already gone. And this was, she was blue and everything. And she was strangling her. But at this point, if somebody is strangling somebody, you would throw that person to the side and rescue your child and call 911, wouldn't you? You would rescue your child. The kids both sleep in different rooms. So, how does he know the other one is gone already just by looking at the baby monitor when apparently they're in separate rooms? Well, anyway, I was just thinking about that, but I guess we don't even know what story is true yet. But as he says, when he sees that, he comes up behind her, like I thought. When he comes up behind her, This is why I say when she was in the bed, this is why he can't say why she didn't struggle and what was her expression on her face, because he couldn't tell you, because he never see her face. If one of the stories is true, the one when he straddles her in the bed, and the one he comes into the bedroom while she's strangling the kid and he comes upon her behind her, he could have knocked her out, kind of thing. He put her a stranglehold on her, and if you pull on the artery there, you can make somebody pass out right away. Okay? Boom, you're passed out. And that's why she didn't struggle. That's one theory. That he blocked her circulation and she passed out right away. Well, she couldn't fight back then. Right? Right. So he could have done that. And then when she was in the bed, when Bella came into the room, he also said she was facing down. And he was getting the sheets ready to wrap her up in. She was already facing down. He never moved her on her back and then wrap her. He said she was facing down, I was going to wrap her up. So why turn her around? Why face her down? Maybe because he didn't want to look at her? Or maybe that's just the way it happened. So, we're thinking maybe one of the children were already gone. But there's statements saying that they were both up, playing around, right? At one point, Bella was up, but then another point, Cece was up. And next minute, he says he has to go get Cece out of bed because she was sleeping. So, I don't know which one's true out of that lot. Which story is true? He's still not telling the truth. He's still not telling the truth. He can't bring himself to say what really happened. So he's come up with this story. And this story is much worse than we thought. We know that. Much worse, a disgusting story than what he told in the first place. Now, by telling that story about what happened, that's why a lot of people can think, well, that could happen. You know, that it could happen. She could have done it. Because of the way he was telling the story, it could have happened, but not the part where you take them out to your job and dispose of them like that. That part didn't make sense. That part was the crazy part, where you wouldn't call 911. So, that's why his story wasn't really 100% believable about all that. So, you know, as we know, Chris talks in circles, you know. Him and Shanann were talking in circles. Well, he talks in circles. She talks normal, but you can't get a real sentence out of him. And, you know, like he said, they both cried. And, you know, this is how Shanann's pillow became stained with makeup that she didn't wash up from the night before, from the evening before. Arrived home early that morning. Like we said, the conversation lasted 15 to 20 minutes. And it just goes on like that. You know, we know the story. And in fact, he said, "You never see the kids again." She told him, "You never see the kids again." And that's when he wrapped both his hands around her neck and applied pressure. And of course, he didn't know what was going on, why he couldn't let go. Somebody else was inside him. He was a different person. But he also said before that, he knew that was something was going to happen. He knew something was going to happen that morning because it was in his mind. and he had no control over it. He also said that too. So he already told a lie there, where he just woke her up because he was worried about them not going to be there when he got home from work. But he said earlier that he knew this was going to happen. So what's that saying? Premeditated? Premeditated, because he knew it was going to happen. He said it. Yeah. And she didn't scream, and she made no effort to fight back. No, because you had knocked her out somehow. You had knocked her out somehow, either with grabbing her from behind and putting pressure on her artery, and you can do that and you can pass out straight away. So, and he's stronger than she is. So that could have been what he did. And what do you think she was thinking? I don't know. She was just probably praying to God or something. You know, praying to God. They don't even go to church. He comes up with these stories. Now, this guy's had plenty of time to come up with a story. He's friends with these inmates. They probably told him lots of stories about what happened to them. And he's listened to his, like his dad or other people calling him up on the phone, talking about stuff, or even reading them in letters. So he's had plenty of time to come up with a story, even though he didn't know they were coming to visit him. But he had his story ready, though, didn't he? He had his story ready, even though he was not answering questions. No, he avoided certain questions. So we know all about what he said about the kids and what he did with them. And he took them and put them in the vehicle, took them to his job. We all kind of know that. And what he said in his interview. But we don't think that's completely true. Because, you know, if you put your kids are running around and then you put them in the vehicle, they're going to get out the vehicle and run around. But he says Bella was waiting by the door and just stood there while he took her mother out, and she waited there, but she didn't run out. Now, you would think that she would run out by the vehicle, but she didn't. And then he says he puts her in the vehicle. No, I don't know about that. And then there's another thing about he says, you know, he takes the mother out first and puts her where she ended up being. And then after burying her, he couldn't have buried her that quick. He couldn't have dug a hole that quick. He could not have done it right away. So what he did was he just put the body there and then got a hold of Cece. And then he got a hold of Bella. But he does say he puts the blanket over her head and puts his hand across her nose and her mouth or her neck. And then in the meanwhile, she's saying, "No, Daddy, no, Daddy." Well, how can this kid talk? How can the kid talk when she's being strangled to death? Blanket over her head, hands over her mouth, hands over her nose, hands on her neck. How could she speak those words? That's what I want to know. Because he doesn't really say, well, he does say it's her last words, but while he's doing that, he's saying she said that. So which is it? But anyway, that's what he does. So we know the outcome of all that. And they say why he did it. When asked why he killed his daughters, what's told the investigators, he was so mad at Shanann, he took it out on everyone who was in his path. That's what he said. He was mad at her, so he took everything out on anyone that was in his path. His loving children that he said he would never hurt. Because he was so mad at her. And I'm thinking he's so mad at her. Now the kids are part of her. Now if he's mad at her, he's not liking them kids very much for one reason, because he said that at one point that, Bella's like him and Cece's like the mother, and the kids were being naughty and throwing nuggets at him and behaving badly, and he was not liking it because they're acting like her mother. And so he did say that at one point. So this could be a trigger why he was hurt by his kids, because he's thinking, oh my God, they're going to turn out just like their mother. And so in his head, he's probably having some bad thoughts at that particular time. But you know what? Your kids are going to take after either or. They might all take after the mother, might take after the father or the uncle. You look like somebody, don't you? And you act like somebody growing up. Like me, I used to be kind of like my mother and like her in a lot of ways. But now I've got older. My mom don't like my dad. They divorced a long time ago. He's an abusive man. But those two were not meant to be together. They should have got divorced a long time ago. She should have never stayed with him. But you know what? She don't like him, all right? And so now she tells me, you're just like your father. You're just like your father. Now she says that I am like my father. I got the same. See, I got both their personalities, so I don't know what my mother's talking about. I'm just looking at her. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know which one's worse, you or him. Kind of thing. I'm like, oh my God. She's got his good points and he's got his good points. But now, as I've got older, I am more like my dad looking. I look more like my dad now. People change when they get older. See, I spent most of my time with my mother, not my father, really. So you kind of get their personality more, but when you get older, I don't know what it is. You change, don't you? So anyway, not saying I'm like my dad in every way, because I don't really like him that much. So there you go. But like I said, you were going to have the behaviors of your parents or personality or looks. And this will remind you of them. Well, my God, So anyway, that was worrisome for him, and I think that played a part. And another thing, he said his wife was trying to separate him from his family. Now, this has been going on since they got married, since they started dating. This issue comes up all the time. They didn't go to the wedding because of whatever reason. Now, the grandmother went to the wedding, but the parents and the sister didn't. And we're not going to know the true story why. Yeah, they didn't like her. They didn't like her. She wasn't right. And it sounds like Chris had never had girlfriends before. They'd never met. What did they think? He was going to be a bachelor all his life? Apparently he didn't have any girlfriends. That's why when that girl was stating on a YouTube phone-in, she said she was the girlfriend. A bit weird, though, because, I thought it was a bit weird, because I was like, you went out with him on and off, and you're both at college, that you would meet the parents at least 1 time, 2 times, 3 times in a course of 2 years. She said she never met him. So I thought that was weird. But apparently that wasn't true. That this woman never went out with Chris because apparently he didn't have any girlfriends. Because he says so. Wow. You know, so they all come out the woodwork, don't they? So, but the investigators didn't really ask about Shannon's health issues. What was really wrong with her? The kids' issues, their sickness, their allergies to a lot of things. They never talked about that. He did say they had issues, but not as bad as... He didn't make out as bad as what they did have. But they really didn't say anything about Shanann, other than she had that neck surgery or something. But he didn't really talk about her health issues a lot. So we don't know what's going on there, but it doesn't matter. But we just wondered what the investigators came to talk to him about. You know, we wanted some more info on what was going on, really. But all we got was more lies from him, more half-truths. Because some of it's true, but we don't know which part's true. We don't really know which order it happened. And if it was truly planned. Because he's in a nightmare. This all happens all of a sudden. This happens all of a sudden. He's got no plan. Yeah, he could have taken the day off of work and put them in the truck and took off. Couldn't he? But he didn't. He took him to his job, the worst place ever, where, you know, that'd be the first place you look, right? Yeah, and that's the first place they looked. P-brain. So guys, that's a little recap on all that. But there's so much more to his confession. But they call it confession, but it wasn't. They didn't go there to get a confession. They went there because they want to know who was in the basement. Because at first he said he didn't go in the basement, but at one point he went down in the basement to get trash bags, black trash bags, I think. But somebody went in the basement, and they wanted to know who was in the basement. And they more or less asked him, was she in there? But he wasn't answering. So, and they also asked, has NK wrote to you? Because they know that she is not to write to him. Or, you know, I don't think she'd ever dream about writing to him anymore. But they asked anyway. And he goes, no, not that I know of. Unless she wrote in code. You know, she wrote anonymous. And, you know, and I wouldn't know that. Yeah, you would, you liar. Of course you would. Excuse me, I think they would know her handwriting and stuff like that. But he says, oh no, I wouldn't know she wrote to me. She could write to me in code and I wouldn't know. So what do you think? Do you think she's writing to him in code? But you know what? These letters have to come from a state. Now, I'm not sure if he gets his letters in the same envelope that they came in, or he is not allowed to have the envelopes, but only the letters inside it. But he has to have the address because these people write to him and give the address. And if they don't say nothing too nice, he don't write to them. You see, so if you ever plan on writing to Chris Watts, just be nice to him because he reacts more to somebody, you know, on his side. So guys, just thought I'd throw that one out there. So guys, let's have a discussion on your thoughts on this recap, and thank you for stopping by.